I ran from the alien queen for years. Her reason for forgiving me changed everything. Ethan's spacecraft shuddered violently as it raced through the dense asteroid belt orbiting the planet Lorinth. Every collision with drifting space debris sent jolts through the frame, warning alarms flashing across the control panel. Sweat beaded on his forehead, not just from fear of the asteroid impacts, but from the knowledge that the alien queen's hunters were close behind. Years of fleeing, hiding, and surviving had led to this moment, yet he had no plan beyond survival. He gritted his teeth, hands steady on the controls. Humans had always been underestimated in the galaxy. Everyone thought of them as fragile, short-lived, and unprepared for the cunning of alien empires. Yet here he was, a single human pilot maneuvering through an asteroid field that would have destroyed even the most advanced alien fighter. Every careful turn and calculated speed boost reflected a human trait that aliens had never truly understood, instinct backed by audacity. The last time he had seen her, the alien queen, Elira, had been calm. Her violet eyes had seemed to pierce through his very thoughts, judging him not as an enemy but as a curiosity. She had spared him once, in a moment of unexpected mercy, and he had betrayed that trust. He had stolen sensitive intelligence from her empire, information that could have turned the balance of power against her. But he had done it to save countless innocent lives from being enslaved or destroyed. To him, it was the only moral choice, though it had set him on a path of endless running. His communicator beeped, small green lights flashing. A coded message from the alien trackers appeared. They were closing in. Ethan's heart pounded, but he refused to panic. Panic was a luxury he could not afford. Using every trick he had learned during his years on the run, he activated a decoy signal, sending false coordinates into the void. The alien trackers would follow the wrong path while he slipped through another channel. Even as he did it, Ethan reflected on how he had come to this life. It had begun when he had volunteered for the peace mission to Elira's empire, representing humanity in talks to prevent interstellar conflict. At first, he had been naive, trusting that diplomacy could prevent war. But during his time among the alien nobles, he learned their world was complex, full of rivalries, ambitions that often ignored morality. The queen had impressed him, not only with her strength and command but with her rare insight. She could see potential where others saw weakness, and she had recognized a spark in him. Yet that same spark had led him to defy her. He had discovered that the Empire was secretly preparing a campaign of conquest, targeting not just humans but multiple other species across nearby star systems. The plans were meticulous and cruel. Ethan had no choice. He had to act. He had stolen the intelligence, but the moment he did, his life changed forever. He became a fugitive, hunted relentlessly by forces that did not know mercy. As the asteroid field narrowed, Ethan pushed the spacecraft to its limits. The engines roared and the hull groaned under the strain, but he navigated through with the precision that only humans, who had learned to improvise and adapt, could achieve. One miscalculation could mean death, yet each calculated risk brought him closer to survival. Hours passed, and the vastness of space stretched before him. Alone, he thought of the people he was trying to protect. Many human colonies had already fallen to the alien expansion, and he knew that without intervention, countless more would be lost. His heart ached for them, yet he reminded himself that his choices were not made in vain. Humans were resilient. Even when cornered, they found a way to fight back. Suddenly, sensors indicated a fast-approaching vessel. It was not just a tracker. It was one of the Queen's personal hunters, a ship designed for speed, intelligence gathering, and destruction. Ethan's pulse quickened. The hunter vessel moved with precision, cutting through the asteroid field with unnatural grace. It was a dangerous opponent, but he had one advantage: unpredictability. He initiated a series of rapid maneuvers, weaving between asteroids, ducking behind large space debris, and firing small energy pulses to mislead the hunter's sensors. The alien craft adjusted immediately, but Ethan's human intuition, a combination of instinct and creativity, allowed him to stay one step ahead. He realized that his survival relied not on raw power, but on the human capacity to think beyond predictable patterns. Hours became tense minutes. The hunter gained, but so did Ethan's confidence. He remembered the stories of human explorers, inventors, and soldiers who had survived impossible odds simply by refusing to give up. He would not become a footnote in galactic history as a failure. He had a purpose, and that purpose drove every maneuver, every calculated risk. In the distance, a small neutral outpost appeared, a place where neither humans nor aliens held authority. Ethan directed his spacecraft toward it, hoping for temporary refuge. As he approached, he saw the station's docks light up, signaling readiness for incoming craft. The alien hunter was still close, but the terrain of the station's orbit offered some cover. Ethan executed a risky maneuver, diving low and using the station's artificial gravity field to obscure his path. Inside the station, a mixture of species bustled: traders, smugglers, and refugees from countless conflicts. Humans, of course, were few, but Ethan spotted a small group he recognized as human engineers. He landed the spacecraft with a controlled jolt, sparks flying as the hull met the docking bay. Breathing heavily, he powered down the systems and stepped out, feeling the station's gravity on his legs. For a moment, he allowed himself a rare feeling: relief. He had survived this leg of the journey, yet he knew the respite would be brief. The alien queen's reach was vast, and it was only a matter of time before they found him here. He made his way through the crowded corridors, careful to avoid attention. Aliens of every shape and color eyed him curiously, but no one recognized him as the fugitive the Queen sought. He found a quiet corner in one of the station's lower decks, a place where refugees often hid from prying eyes. He sat down, letting the events of the day wash over him. Ethan's thoughts wandered back to Elira. He remembered the first time they met face to face, in a grand chamber illuminated by the soft glow of alien crystal lights. She had been regal, commanding, yet there was an unmistakable intelligence in her gaze. She had asked him a question then, one that had stayed with him. Why did humans always fight when they could avoid conflict? He had stumbled over an answer, fumbling with words, yet she had smiled. That smile, rare for a queen who ruled with both fear and wisdom, had lingered in his memory. He shook his head, trying to focus on survival. Memories could not save him from the hunters or the dangers that lay ahead. He had to plan, gather information, and stay one step ahead. The intelligence he had stolen was not just a weapon, it was a responsibility. In the wrong hands, it could bring devastation. In his hands, it was a chance to protect the innocent. As night fell on the station, Ethan found a small room to rest. He knew sleep was dangerous, yet exhaustion forced his eyelids to close. He dreamed not of the alien hunters or the perilous asteroid fields, but of a galaxy where humans and aliens could coexist, where intelligence and courage were valued over fear and domination. It was a fleeting dream, fragile as the night air, yet it reminded him why he ran, why he risked everything. When he awoke, the station was quiet. Sensors had detected movement outside, faint traces of the hunter vessel's signature, but for now they had not found him. Ethan stood, stretching and prepared for the next phase of his journey. He knew he could not hide forever. The galaxy was vast, but the alien queen's power reached across stars. He needed allies, resources, and most importantly, he needed a plan. Ethan walked to the station's observation deck, looking out at the stars stretching endlessly into the void. He felt the weight of history pressing on his shoulders. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, dismissed as fragile and fleeting. Yet here he was, alone against an empire surviving, thinking, and planning. That human trait, the relentless drive to endure and adapt, was something no alien, no matter how powerful, could fully predict or control. He clenched his fists, determination setting in. The queen had once trusted him, and he had betrayed that trust. But betrayal was a human word for a human choice made with conscience. He had acted to save lives, and that choice, however dangerous, defined him. He would continue to run, to fight, and perhaps one day to face her again, not as a fugitive, but as a human whose courage and morality could not be ignored. Ethan turned away from the observation window, ready to gather supplies, contact allies, and plan his next move. The galaxy was dangerous, full of hunters, traitors, and uncertain alliances. But humans had always found a way, and he would be no exception. The alien queen would find him eventually. When she did, he would be ready, not with fear, but with the unyielding spirit that had carried his species through centuries of challenge. And so, the flight continued, not just through the stars, but through a future uncertain yet full of promise. Ethan ran, yes, but every step, every maneuver, and every choice was a testament to the resilience, cunning, and courage that made humans extraordinary. The chase had begun, but it was only the beginning of a story far larger than any single life. A story in which a human's heart and mind could change the course of the galaxy itself. Ethan remained in the neutral trade station longer than he had intended. The quiet corners offered him a brief respite, yet he knew that nowhere in the galaxy could he truly hide from the alien queen's reach. Days turned into nights, and every sound, every shuttle passing overhead, every footstep echoing in the corridors, made him alert. He had learned long ago that complacency could be fatal. During these days of cautious observation, he began interacting with the station's inhabitants. They were a mix of humans, aliens, and hybrid species who had fled from war, oppression, or political purges. Ethan noticed the subtle ways they adapted to survive. Humans relied on quick thinking, improvisation, and trust in one another. Aliens relied on technology, instinct, and sometimes brute force. Each species had strengths, yet the humans' resourcefulness always fascinated him. Even here, in a galaxy dominated by powerful empires, humans carved out survival with their ingenuity. Ethan had not expected to find allies in this place, but he did. A small group of human engineers recognized him, not by his face, but by his reputation. Rumors of the fugitive human pilot who had stolen secrets from the alien queen had spread through human colonies like wildfire. To them, he was a symbol of daring and intelligence, someone who challenged an empire with nothing but courage and wit. Despite their caution, they welcomed him, sharing information about safe routes, supply caches, and the latest news about alien patrols. He spent time with them, repairing his spacecraft, gathering supplies, and listening to the stories of those who had survived. Each tale reinforced a simple truth: humans endured, adapted, and prevailed where others would falter. Listening to them, Ethan felt a connection to his species, a pride that went beyond mere survival. Humans were underestimated in this galaxy, but their potential was limitless. He could not rely solely on luck. He had to apply human ingenuity to outthink the empire chasing him. Even as he planned, he reflected on the events that had led him here. The first encounter with the alien queen had been both terrifying and enlightening. She had appeared unexpectedly during a diplomatic meeting, her presence dominating the chamber. Her calm, measured tone had demanded attention, yet her eyes conveyed something beyond authority. They had studied him with curiosity. Ethan had been assigned as a translator for human delegates, tasked with ensuring the negotiations ran smoothly. But the discussions had gone beyond politics. Elira had asked him questions that tested his perception, his ethics, and his understanding of human behavior. She had been fascinated by humans' ability to act against instinct, to choose morality over convenience. He had stumbled in answering her questions, yet she had smiled, a rare, almost imperceptible expression, and spared him from the scrutiny others faced. That memory lingered in Ethan's mind as he moved through the crowded station. He realized that Elira's intelligence and insight made her unlike any ruler he had encountered. She was feared, yes, but not blindly cruel. She judged not only with authority but with reason. It was this understanding that made his betrayal so dangerous. By stealing intelligence from her empire, he had not merely defied an empire. He had challenged a ruler capable of seeing far beyond most beings. The arrival of alien refugees at the station added urgency to his thoughts. Many had escaped oppressive colonies, arriving with little more than the clothes on their backs. Their stories were tragic, families torn apart, homes destroyed, cultures erased, but they carried a spark of resilience. Ethan saw their fear, but he also saw hope. In these moments, he realized that his mission was not just about evading the alien queen. It was about protecting the innocent, about ensuring that courage and morality had a place in the galaxy. Using his knowledge of Elira's intelligence network, he helped coordinate safe passages for the refugees. He devised decoy routes, created false signals, and shared survival strategies that relied on clever thinking rather than brute force. Time and again, human improvisation proved superior to alien technology, and Ethan witnessed the admiration and relief in the eyes of those he helped. These moments strengthened his resolve, reminding him why he had risked everything to act against the Empire. Despite his successes, Ethan remained vigilant. Scouts from Elira's forces were constantly searching for him, and he knew it was only a matter of time before they discovered his location. He had prepared escape routes, hidden compartments in the station, and contingency plans, yet he understood that the alien queen's intelligence was unparalleled. Every move had to be precise, every decision weighed carefully. Mistakes could be fatal. One evening, while reviewing star charts in the station's observation deck, he detected an anomaly. A vessel moved not like a hunter but with deliberate caution, as if observing rather than pursuing. Ethan's instincts, honed through years of survival, told him this was not a routine patrol. He activated long-range sensors and enhanced the ship's signals. To his surprise, the readings suggested a craft operating under Elira's direct command, yet it made no move to intercept him. Curiosity mixed with caution. Could the alien queen herself be nearby? The thought made his heart race, but he resisted panic. He had learned that fear could cloud judgment. Instead, he prepared for the possibility of confrontation, reviewing strategies in his mind, considering options for negotiation, escape, or diversion. Human adaptability had kept him alive this long. It would not fail him now. Later that night, while moving through the lower decks to rest, he sensed a presence. He froze, listening. The corridors were empty, yet a faint hum in the air suggested advanced surveillance. His hand moved instinctively to a concealed device, a human-made tool designed to disrupt alien sensors. With careful precision, he activated it, creating a temporary blind spot. He slipped through, silent as a shadow, and reached a small chamber reserved for traders and travelers. It was there, in the dim light of the chamber, that he first encountered her, not the full regality of the alien queen, but her representation. A holographic message played, showing Elira's calm, violet eyes studying him. Her voice was measured, almost gentle, yet carried authority that demanded attention. "Ethan," the message began, "you have evaded me for years. I have watched your actions, your choices, and the lives you have affected. I seek not merely to punish, but to understand. Why did a human, capable of courage and insight, choose fear over alliance?" The question struck him. No alien had ever asked him to explain his morality, to justify the principles guiding his choices. Humans often acted out of compassion, empathy, or conscience, qualities that were unpredictable and to many alien species inefficient. Yet the alien queen acknowledged their significance. She had noticed what few did, that morality, intelligence, and courage were inseparable in a human heart. Ethan sat in silence, contemplating his answer. He could have lied, deflected, or threatened, but he realized that honesty was his greatest strength. He recorded a reply, simple and clear, explaining that he acted to protect lives, not for glory or rebellion. He spoke of human resilience, the instinct to preserve life, and the need to act when faced with overwhelming power. Sending the message into the void, he felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. The act itself was risky. Any interception could expose him. Yet he believed that communication, even with a ruler as formidable as Elira, required transparency. Humans, he reflected, survived not by hiding, but by engaging with the unknown, adapting, and asserting their principles. In the days that followed, Ethan continued his efforts to aid the refugees. He became a symbol of hope, his human ingenuity admired even by alien allies. Every challenge he faced, from sabotage attempts by rival factions to navigating the complex political landscape of the station, was met with strategy, skill, and moral clarity. The refugees began to see him not just as a fugitive, but as a protector, someone whose choices, though dangerous, embodied the best of human potential. Yet the presence of the alien queen's observation weighed on him. He knew that every action could be scrutinized, every decision analyzed. The galaxy was a chessboard, and he was a single piece moving against a player who understood every possibility. Still, he embraced the challenge. Humans had always thrived where others faltered, using creativity and courage to overcome limitations. One day, a small alien delegation arrived at the station, bringing news of unrest in nearby sectors. Rogue factions within the Empire were exploiting the chaos, threatening both humans and alien colonies. Ethan realized that the situation was deteriorating faster than he had anticipated. His mission to survive had expanded into a responsibility to protect, to act strategically to prevent greater conflict. He convened a meeting with the human engineers and select allies, outlining plans to aid vulnerable colonies. Using his knowledge of Elira's intelligence combined with human improvisation, they developed strategies to outmaneuver the rogue factions. Each plan relied not on brute force, but on insight, timing, and adaptability, the very qualities that defined humanity. As preparations continued, Ethan felt a growing awareness of the broader stakes. His choices, small as they seemed, could ripple across the galaxy. He reflected on the nature of humanity, underestimated, often dismissed, yet capable of extraordinary outcomes when guided by conscience, intelligence, and courage. In a universe dominated by powerful empires, humans remained unpredictable, and that unpredictability was a strength the alien queen could not ignore. And so, Ethan's days on the station passed, filled with planning, teaching, aiding, and surviving. He understood that his journey was not just about evading Elira's hunters, but about proving through action that humans were more than fragile beings in a vast galaxy. They were thinkers, creators, and protectors. They could challenge the strongest, endure the impossible, and shape the future in ways no alien could predict. Ethan knew that his path would soon lead him into direct confrontation with forces far greater than any asteroid belt or rogue faction. Yet he was ready. Humans survived through ingenuity, morality, and courage, and he carried those qualities in every thought, every decision, and every action. The galaxy was vast, full of danger and uncertainty, but it was also a place where a single human could make a difference. Looking out across the stars from the station's observation deck, Ethan felt a sense of purpose settle over him. He had fled for years, but he had learned, grown, and prepared. He was no longer merely a fugitive. He was a human capable of facing an empire, not just with fear, but with strategy, morality, and the unpredictable courage that defined his species. The journey ahead would be perilous, but for the first time in years, Ethan believed that survival was not enough. He could make a real difference, and perhaps, one day, face the alien queen with more than fear in his heart. Ethan had spent weeks on the neutral station carefully, planning each move, gathering intelligence, and preparing to aid those who could not defend themselves. The galaxy was vast, yet danger was never far. Even here, in a place supposedly neutral, rumors reached him, rumors of rogue factions exploiting the chaos left by the Empire, factions that threatened not just humans, but countless innocent species. His sense of responsibility had grown. Survival was no longer enough. He needed to act. He began by traveling to nearby colonies with a small human team, chosen for their courage and quick thinking. They moved in secret, using uncharted routes through asteroid belts, nebulae, and abandoned space stations. The first colony they reached had been under constant pressure from a mercenary faction. Supplies were dwindling, homes damaged, and hope fading. Ethan observed the situation carefully, analyzing patterns, noting weaknesses, and predicting how the rogue faction would act next. Using simple human ingenuity, they created a distraction. Ethan instructed his team to rig small energy pulses in specific locations to mislead the mercenaries' sensors. The alien intruders, skilled though they were, fell for the trick. While their attention was diverted, Ethan led the colony's inhabitants to hidden shelters, securing food and medical supplies. The operation was precise, fast, and efficient, proof that humans could achieve remarkable outcomes, not through sheer power, but through strategy, adaptability, and courage. The people of the colony watched in awe. Some whispered that humans were unpredictable, even dangerous, yet capable of protection and kindness. Ethan felt a rare warmth as he observed their relief, helping them reaffirmed why he had risked everything. The stolen intelligence, the constant flight, and the fear of the alien queen were heavy burdens, but moments like these reminded him of the value of human courage and morality. After securing the first colony, Ethan moved his team to a second location, a trading outpost that had recently fallen under attack. This time, he relied on stealth and careful timing rather than technological tricks. They used the natural terrain of the asteroid belt around the outpost, moving silently, observing patrol patterns, and striking only when the rogue faction was most vulnerable. Ethan's human intuition guided each decision. He noticed small details that others might miss: the flicker of a sensor, the rhythm of a patrol, or the way supplies were stacked. These observations allowed him to predict movements and plan interventions that minimized risk while maximizing impact. By dawn, the outpost was secured, the attackers neutralized without casualties, and the inhabitants were free to rebuild. Throughout these missions, Ethan noticed something remarkable. Even aliens who had suffered under the Empire began to trust him, not as a human with power, but as a human with insight. He learned to listen, to understand their fears, hopes, and desires. He realized that human adaptability extended beyond tactics. It included empathy, communication, and moral judgment. These traits, often underestimated by alien civilizations, became his most potent tools. While resting on the observation deck of the reclaimed outpost, Ethan received an encrypted message. It was not from a human source but from Elira herself. The message was concise, almost formal, yet it carried a weight that made his pulse quicken. "Ethan," the message read, "your actions have been observed. I am aware of your interference in my empire. You choose to protect where others dominate. I wish to understand your motives. Prepare to meet me, should you choose, under terms of safety and neutrality." Ethan stared at the message. A direct encounter with the alien queen was dangerous, but the tone was not purely threatening. It suggested curiosity, perhaps even respect. Yet he could not ignore the risks. Every human instinct screamed caution. Meeting her meant exposure, and exposure could mean the end of not only his life, but also the fragile networks he had built to protect colonies. After long contemplation, he decided to respond, not with words of submission, but with honesty. He explained that his actions were guided by the desire to protect the innocent, to use human ingenuity and morality to intervene where oppression threatened countless lives. He acknowledged that his methods defied the empire, but he emphasized that survival and protection were the highest priorities for humans. Sending the message, Ethan knew that this was a turning point. He could continue to run indefinitely, hiding and surviving, or he could engage with Elira directly, facing the consequences of his choices. Humans thrived on challenge. They grew stronger when confronted with adversity. Perhaps this was an opportunity to demonstrate the very qualities that made his species exceptional. In the days following his reply, Ethan continued his efforts to assist colonies while preparing for a potential meeting. His team worked tirelessly, gathering supplies, improving defenses, and sharing survival strategies. Ethan instructed them to remain ready for sudden evacuations, to communicate silently, and to rely on each other's strengths. Human cooperation, he knew, was a force more powerful than many alien empires understood. Then, the day arrived. Ethan received coordinates leading to a secluded asteroid station, isolated enough to prevent interference from others. He approached cautiously, analyzing the trajectory of potential patrols and calculating risks. As he entered the station's orbit, a single vessel emerged from the shadows. It was sleek, elegant, and unmistakably royal. Elira herself had arrived. Stepping onto the station, Ethan felt a mixture of tension and awe. The corridors were illuminated by alien technology, soft light reflecting off crystal surfaces, yet the environment was designed for clarity and observation rather than intimidation. At the end of a long hall, Elira awaited, her presence commanding yet composed. "Ethan," she said, her voice resonating with authority, "you have evaded me for years. You have interfered, disrupted, and protected. I wish to understand why. Speak plainly without deceit or fear." Ethan took a deep breath. He explained his actions, recounting the intelligence he had stolen, the colonies he had protected, and the principles guiding him. He spoke of human resilience, empathy, and ingenuity. He did not boast of his survival or cleverness, but he emphasized the moral reasoning behind his choices. Elira listened silently, her eyes unblinking yet attentive. She asked questions, not to challenge him but to probe his understanding, to see the depth of human thought and motivation. Ethan answered honestly, aware that this exchange was unlike any confrontation he had faced. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, yet here, in this isolated station, he had the opportunity to demonstrate that courage, intelligence, and morality could rival even the most powerful rulers. The conversation lasted hours. Ethan found that Elira's perception of humans was more nuanced than he had imagined. She recognized that they were unpredictable, resourceful, and guided by principles that could not easily be measured by power or technology alone. In her own way, she respected his actions, even as she acknowledged the danger they posed to her authority. By the end of the meeting, a fragile understanding had formed. Elira did not forgive him outright, nor did she offer alliance. Yet she acknowledged his courage, his ingenuity, and his moral clarity. Ethan realized that the alien queen's power was not limited to force. It extended to judgment, insight, and a rare form of fairness. This understanding was both comforting and dangerous. He had proven that humans were capable of extraordinary thought and action, yet the stakes remained high. As he departed the station, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had faced the alien queen directly and lived. He had demonstrated that human qualities, resilience, morality, and adaptability, could influence even the most powerful rulers. The galaxy remained dangerous, yet he no longer felt merely hunted. He was a participant, shaping outcomes through courage and insight. Returning to the colonies, Ethan continued his mission with renewed determination. Rogue factions attempted to disrupt his efforts, but human ingenuity prevailed. He trained leaders, shared strategies, and coordinated defenses, using creativity and moral reasoning rather than brute force. The colonies began to see humans not as fragile outsiders, but as capable protectors whose courage and intelligence could alter the course of events. News of his deeds began to spread, reaching not only human colonies but also alien outposts. Some aliens began to question their assumptions about humans. Could such beings, underestimated and dismissed, influence galactic events through courage, strategy, and moral clarity? Ethan's actions suggested they could. Even as he moved forward, Ethan remained aware of Elira's presence. The alien queen watched not as a hunter, but as an observer, evaluating not only his survival skills but the qualities that made humans unique. Her interest was not merely political, it was intellectual. Humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and morally guided, a combination that defied easy classification. Ethan understood that the future held challenges beyond any asteroid field or rogue faction. Yet he also realized that humans, through their ingenuity and courage, could face threats that even the most powerful alien empires could not fully anticipate. Each choice, each act of protection, reinforced the lesson he had learned through years of fleeing and fighting. Survival alone was not enough. To shape the galaxy, humans needed to act with intelligence, morality, and unwavering determination. As he prepared for the next mission, Ethan reflected on the long journey ahead. The colonies he had aided were beginning to thrive. The rogue factions, though persistent, had been slowed. And Elira's interest, far from a threat, provided insight into how far human ingenuity could reach. He was no longer merely a fugitive. He was a force shaped by human traits, resourcefulness, courage, and morality, capable of influencing outcomes in ways the galaxy had never seen. Ethan's journey continued, each mission a testament to the human spirit. The galaxy remained uncertain, filled with danger, political intrigue, and unpredictable outcomes. Yet humans, underestimated and often dismissed, could navigate the chaos with ingenuity and courage. Ethan had proven it, colony by colony, encounter by encounter, choice by choice. And as he looked toward the stars, he felt the quiet certainty that humans were not just survivors. They were shapers of destiny, capable of extraordinary influence in a galaxy that had long underestimated them. Ethan had begun to understand the larger patterns of the galaxy. Rogue factions were exploiting the instability caused by the Empire, yet these disturbances revealed opportunities. He realized that human intelligence and resourcefulness could shape events far beyond what brute strength alone could achieve. While his previous missions had focused on survival and aiding colonies, he now aimed to create a more lasting impact. He traveled with a small human team, each member chosen for their adaptability and ingenuity. Together, they moved across different systems, observing patterns of conflict and identifying areas where intervention could prevent further suffering. The galaxy was vast, but human strategy relied not on the enormity of space, but on the understanding of connections, timing, and the ability to act decisively when needed. One of their first challenges arose on a mining colony in the Targon sector. The miners had been under attack by a rogue mercenary group seeking control of resources critical to both human and alien colonies. The mercenaries were skilled and well-equipped, yet Ethan's team approached the problem differently. Instead of confronting them directly, they created diversions and manipulated supply lines, turning the mercenaries' own tactics against them. Ethan observed the operation carefully. Each decision required precise calculation: when to strike, when to retreat, when to communicate with the miners to ensure their safety. Human ingenuity was on full display. They repurposed mining drones into reconnaissance tools, used natural asteroid formations for cover, and created energy pulses that confused sensors. By nightfall, the colony was secure, and the mercenary threat had been neutralized without a single casualty. As he moved from colony to colony, Ethan noticed a recurring theme. Humans were underestimated not because they lacked strength, but because their resourcefulness, morality, and adaptability were difficult to quantify. Aliens often relied on predictable systems, assuming that force would prevail. Humans, however, were unpredictable, capable of thinking creatively and making moral choices that influenced outcomes in ways that technology alone could not anticipate. During one mission, Ethan encountered a group of alien refugees who had been displaced from a neighboring sector. They were frightened, distrustful, and unfamiliar with human ways. Yet through patience, clear communication, and collaborative problem-solving, he gained their trust. He shared strategies to avoid conflict, coordinated safe transport routes, and provided essential supplies. The aliens began to see humans differently, not as fragile outsiders, but as capable allies whose courage and intelligence could be relied upon in desperate situations. While helping these refugees, Ethan received intelligence that a major faction within the Empire was planning a coup against the Queen. The faction sought to take advantage of the instability caused by his previous interventions, intending to seize control of critical territories and resources. The implications were massive. If they succeeded, the galaxy would plunge into chaos, and countless innocents, human and alien alike, would suffer. Ethan knew he had to act. He devised a plan to intercept the faction's communications, disrupt their supply lines, and gather evidence of their betrayal. This was not a battle of firepower, but of strategy, timing, and human ingenuity. Every detail mattered. By carefully analyzing the enemy's patterns, he could predict their moves, anticipate challenges, and act in a way that minimized risk to those he sought to protect. The operation required precision. Ethan coordinated with his team to infiltrate the faction's communication hub, using a combination of stealth, clever distraction, and technological improvisation. While the faction believed their plans were secure, Ethan's humans worked tirelessly, repurposing alien technology, manipulating sensors, and creating misdirection. Within hours, they had gathered critical intelligence, disrupted supply chains, and sent encrypted warnings to nearby colonies. The results were immediate. The faction's advance slowed, colonies were better prepared, and the population's morale improved. Ethan realized that human action, even in a galaxy dominated by advanced empires, could influence events on a massive scale. Strategy, intelligence, and moral judgment proved more powerful than sheer strength. As the weeks passed, Ethan continued to refine his approach. He studied alien political structures, learned patterns of trade and travel, and anticipated shifts in power. His understanding of the galaxy expanded, yet he remained grounded in human qualities: courage, adaptability, and empathy. Each mission reinforced the lesson that humans were capable of extraordinary outcomes, not because of technology alone, but because of their capacity to think, plan, and act with moral clarity. During one particularly tense mission, Ethan's team faced a critical choice. A rogue faction had taken control of a small but strategically important starport. The faction's presence threatened several nearby colonies, and a direct attack risked significant casualties. Ethan evaluated the situation, considering options that would minimize harm while achieving objectives. Drawing on human ingenuity, he devised a plan that combined deception, precise timing, and collaboration with local inhabitants. The operation unfolded flawlessly. By leveraging knowledge of the starport's layout, creating controlled diversions, and coordinating with the local population, Ethan's team neutralized the rogue faction's presence. Supplies were secured, and the inhabitants were free to resume normal life. Once again, humans had demonstrated that intelligence, courage, and moral reasoning could achieve outcomes that brute force alone could not. Throughout these missions, Ethan remained aware of the alien queen's gaze. Though she had not interfered directly, her interest was evident. Messages arrived intermittently, containing questions, observations, and occasional guidance. She did not command, she sought understanding. Her approach was a test, not of strength but of human potential. Ethan recognized the subtle brilliance of her method. She valued insight, creativity, and morality, qualities that humans embodied uniquely. Ethan began to consider the implications. The Queen's observations suggested that humans were more than subjects to be conquered or dismissed. She saw them as a force capable of shaping the galaxy, influencing decisions, and altering outcomes in ways that even her empire could not fully predict. This understanding was both empowering and dangerous. It meant that his actions had consequences far beyond immediate survival. Humans had a role to play in the balance of power, and he carried that responsibility consciously. One evening, while resting on the observation deck of a secured outpost, Ethan reflected on the journey so far. He thought of the colonies he had helped, the people whose lives had been changed, and the lessons he had learned. Human qualities, ingenuity, courage, and moral judgment had repeatedly proven decisive. Even in the face of superior technology and overwhelming odds, humans had found a way to survive and influence outcomes. The reflection was interrupted by an urgent alert. A fleet of rogue ships was advancing toward a key human colony. The situation demanded immediate action. Ethan quickly assembled his team, reviewed intelligence, and devised a plan. They would intercept the fleet, using clever maneuvering, environmental hazards, and the element of unpredictability to neutralize the threat. The operation was tense. Ships moved through asteroid belts, energy fields, and narrow passages. Ethan's team executed their roles flawlessly, using misdirection, coordinated strikes, and rapid adaptability. The rogue fleet, though larger and technologically superior, was caught off guard by human creativity and strategy. Within hours, the threat was contained, and the colony was safe. Ethan realized that human ingenuity, combined with courage and moral focus, was becoming a recognized factor in galactic events. He was no longer merely a fugitive. He had become a symbol of what humans could achieve when principles guided action. His story spread quietly across systems, inspiring hope and caution alike. Humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and capable of altering outcomes in ways that alien powers could not always anticipate. Despite these successes, Ethan remained cautious. He knew that Alira's attention was constant. The alien queen watched not to punish, but to understand. Her observations had taught him that humans were more than survivors. They were thinkers, strategists, and moral agents. Their unpredictability and courage made them unique, a force that could influence events far beyond their numbers or technology. Ethan's reflections were interrupted by a new challenge. Reports indicated that rogue factions were planning coordinated attacks across multiple systems, threatening both human and alien colonies. The situation was more complex than anything he had faced. It required not just courage but precise coordination, intelligence gathering, and rapid decision-making. He convened his team and mapped out a multi-system intervention. Each member had a specific role: intelligence, strategy, coordination, and communication. Ethan himself focused on analyzing patterns, predicting enemy movements, and designing interventions that minimized risk while maximizing impact. The plan relied heavily on human traits, adaptability, creativity, and moral clarity, rather than brute force. Over the course of several weeks, Ethan's team executed the plan. They intercepted communications, disrupted supply lines, and aided colonies in defending themselves. Each success reinforced the lessons that humans were more than underestimated beings. They were capable of shaping events, influencing outcomes, and protecting those who could not defend themselves. As the final operation concluded, Ethan reflected on the broader significance. Humans had survived and thrived in the galaxy, not because of overwhelming technology or power, but because of intelligence, courage, and morality. Each mission demonstrated that human qualities could rival the most advanced empires, that adaptability and moral reasoning could influence outcomes in profound ways. For the first time in years, Ethan felt a sense of accomplishment beyond survival. He had helped protect lives, demonstrated human potential, and influenced the balance of power. The galaxy remained dangerous, but humans had proven their worth. They were not merely subjects of fear or conquest. They were active agents capable of shaping the future. As he looked out over the stars, Ethan realized that the next steps would be critical. Rogue factions were contained for now, but the Empire, the Alien Queen, and other powers remained. Yet he understood that humans, through ingenuity, courage, and moral action, could influence the galaxy in ways that were both unpredictable and powerful. Each decision, each act of protection, each strategic choice reinforced the truth. Humans were extraordinary, and their potential could change the course of history itself. Ethan had spent years running, fighting, and planning. Each mission had tested his courage, intelligence, and morality. Every choice he made shaped not only his own survival, but the lives of countless humans and aliens. The rogue factions were under control, the colonies he had aided were rebuilding, and the galaxy had begun to recognize the value of human ingenuity and resilience. Yet despite these victories, he knew that one challenge remained: the Alien Queen herself. Elira's presence had always loomed over him, not as a constant threat but as an enduring observation. Her messages had grown less formal and more inquisitive over time, reflecting her fascination with his actions. She did not command, she evaluated. She was studying him not just as a fugitive or adversary, but as a representative of a species whose qualities she had long underestimated. One day, an encrypted message arrived on his communicator, more detailed than any before. It contained coordinates to a secluded neutral planet, a location chosen for privacy, negotiation, and observation. The message was clear: meet, and all past hostilities could be addressed. Ethan studied the data carefully. The message implied no immediate threat, yet the risk was undeniable. Meeting the Queen directly after years of evasion could end in capture, or worse, but it could also bring understanding and perhaps resolution. After careful consideration, Ethan decided to accept. He prepared his spacecraft, coordinated with trusted allies, and reviewed every contingency. The human trait of foresight, combined with adaptability and courage, guided every step. He would face the Alien Queen not with fear, but with preparation and integrity. Humans had always survived by acting thoughtfully, creatively, and morally. He intended to prove that these qualities were as formidable as any weapon. The journey to the neutral planet was tense. Ethan navigated asteroid belts, nebulae, and sensor-jammed regions to avoid detection. Yet he could sense that he was being observed, not pursued. Elira's presence was subtle but unmistakable. She respected strategy, and she respected courage. For the first time in years, Ethan felt that he was not merely running. He was approaching a confrontation where his principles, rather than his survival instincts, mattered most. Landing on the neutral planet, Ethan stepped onto the surface with caution. The terrain was barren but stable, with natural formations that provided both shelter and observation points. In the distance, a fleet arrived, sleek, precise, and unmistakably under the command of the alien queen. Ethan felt the weight of history pressing upon him. Every decision he had made, every act of courage and protection, had led to this moment. Alira stepped forward to meet him. Her violet eyes held the same intensity he remembered, yet there was no hostility. Instead, there was curiosity, an analytical precision that only the most advanced minds could possess. She spoke clearly and deliberately. "You have acted in ways I did not expect," she said. "You have interfered, disrupted, and protected. You have risked your life, defied my authority, and yet your actions have preserved countless lives. Why, Ethan? Why choose morality over fear?" Ethan took a deep breath, steadying his thoughts. He spoke honestly, recounting the years of decisions, the colonies he had aided, and the principles that guided him. He emphasized human resilience, ingenuity, and empathy, explaining that humans often acted not for glory, but because it was the right thing to do. Alira listened without interruption, her gaze unblinking yet deeply perceptive. She asked questions, probing his understanding of human motives, the nature of courage, and the reasoning behind each risky action. Ethan answered with honesty and clarity, aware that his words carried as much weight as any demonstration of skill or strength. As the conversation unfolded, Ethan began to notice subtle shifts. Alira's questions became less formal, more reflective. She acknowledged the human capacity for foresight, strategy, and moral judgment, qualities she had seen in few other species. Ethan realized that he was not simply a fugitive confronting a powerful queen. He was representing humanity itself, showing that courage, intelligence, and morality could influence even the most powerful entities in the galaxy. Hours passed in careful dialogue. Ethan shared his observations, strategies, and insights, not as defiance, but as evidence of human capability. He spoke of cooperation, adaptability, and the unexpected ways humans overcame challenges. Alira responded not with judgment, but with analysis, recognizing the potential of a species she had once underestimated. Finally, she stepped back and regarded him with a new understanding. "Ethan," she said, her voice measured but not cold, "your actions demonstrate qualities I have long studied but seldom witnessed. Humans are unpredictable, resilient, and morally guided. You have not merely survived. You have influenced events, protected lives, and acted with insight beyond mere instinct. I recognize this now." Ethan felt a mixture of relief and cautious hope. Forgiveness was not simply granted. It was earned through courage, intelligence, and moral clarity. His years of evasion, risk, and intervention had proven the worth of human qualities. Alira's acknowledgement was more powerful than any alliance. It was recognition that humans could shape the galaxy through more than weapons alone. The Queen continued, her tone reflecting both authority and contemplation. "You have shown that morality, intelligence, and courage can rival even the most advanced strategies. Your species is capable of remarkable outcomes, and I see now that humans are a force to be considered, not merely dismissed. I forgive your transgressions, not because they are forgotten, but because you have demonstrated the depth of your potential." Ethan absorbed her words, understanding the gravity of the moment. Forgiveness was rare in the galaxy, particularly from a ruler as powerful as Alira. Yet it was granted, not through weakness, but through recognition of human capability. He had proven that survival, courage, and morality could influence even those who held unimaginable power. In the days that followed, Ethan worked with the Queen in a new capacity. He advised on matters of security, humanitarian intervention, and strategic planning, using his human perspective to provide insights that technology or brute force could not replicate. His role was not subservient, it was collaborative, a partnership rooted in mutual respect and understanding. Human colonies flourished under his guidance. Rogue factions were neutralized, supply lines stabilized, and diplomatic connections strengthened. Alien species that had once viewed humans as fragile or insignificant began to recognize their value, not just as allies, but as agents capable of shaping outcomes with ingenuity, courage, and ethical decision-making. Throughout these missions, Ethan never forgot the lessons he had learned while fleeing. Survival was essential, but it was the application of human qualities, creativity, moral judgment, and courage that truly defined success. Each decision, each action, was guided by the principle that protecting life and upholding integrity were not weaknesses, but strengths that could influence even the most powerful entities in the galaxy. Elira continued to observe and engage, not as a ruler asserting dominance, but as a partner seeking understanding. Through this relationship, Ethan demonstrated the unique capabilities of humanity, showing that even a single individual, guided by morality, intelligence, and courage, could shape events on a galactic scale. The final turning point came when a coalition of alien factions threatened a strategic sector critical to multiple species. Ethan coordinated a complex plan that combined diversion, negotiation, and strategic deployment. The operation relied on human traits, adaptability, foresight, and empathy, rather than sheer force. The coalition, impressed by the unexpected human strategies and moral clarity, withdrew, avoiding bloodshed and preserving stability. This event solidified humanity's reputation in the galaxy. Humans were no longer dismissed as fragile, unpredictable, or insignificant. They were recognized as a species whose ingenuity, courage, and morality could influence outcomes in profound ways. Ethan had not only survived, but he had reshaped perceptions, demonstrating that humans could be both protectors and strategic thinkers in a complex galaxy. As he stood once more on the observation deck of the neutral planet, watching stars stretch endlessly into the void, Ethan reflected on the journey. Years of running, planning, and acting had led to this moment. The alien queen's forgiveness was not merely personal, it was symbolic of the recognition of human potential. Humans had endured, adapted, and acted with courage and morality, proving that even in a universe dominated by power and technology, intelligence and ethical action could alter the course of events. Ethan knew the journey was far from over. The galaxy remained vast, filled with challenges, uncertainties, and opportunities, yet he felt a profound sense of purpose and confidence. Humans had demonstrated their value, and he had played a role in shaping the recognition of their potential. Each action he had taken, each decision guided by courage and morality, had contributed to a new understanding of what humans could achieve. The Queen approached him once more, her expression calm yet deliberate. "Ethan," she said, "you have shown that courage, intelligence, and morality are forces that even my empire must respect. Humanity is not merely a species to be observed. They are capable of shaping destiny itself. I acknowledge your actions, and I recognize the potential of those you represent." Ethan nodded, understanding the weight of her acknowledgement. Forgiveness had been earned, yes, but more importantly, recognition had been granted. Humans, long underestimated, had proven that their qualities, creativity, courage, and morality, were formidable forces in the galaxy. As he departed the neutral planet, returning to the colonies and networks he had aided, Ethan felt the quiet certainty that humanity's place in the galaxy had changed. He had faced danger, evaded capture, and challenged expectations, all guided by the principles that defined his species. The alien queen's forgiveness was the culmination of his journey, but it was also a beginning, a recognition that humans could act decisively, morally, and strategically to influence the galaxy in ways no one had anticipated. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, full of possibility, challenge, and hope. Ethan knew that humans would continue to face adversity, but he also knew that they would endure, adapt, and prevail. Their ingenuity, courage, and morality would shape not only their own future, but the destiny of countless others across the galaxy. And so, the fugitive who had once run from the alien queen became a symbol, not just of survival, but of the extraordinary potential of humanity. In the vastness of space, amidst factions, empires, and uncertainty, humans had proven their worth. They were protectors, strategists, and moral actors whose actions could change the course of history itself. Ethan's journey continued, no longer as a fugitive, but as a representative of the resilience and ingenuity of his species. The galaxy had seen the value of humanity, and the story of a single human's courage, morality, and intelligence would inspire generations to come.